The lawyer for adult film star Stormy Daniels says his client should be free to give her account of her relationship with Donald Trump. That is a contention of a new lawsuit filed yesterday in Los Angeles Superior Court. It says that a non-disclosure agreement signed by Daniels, whose real name is Stephanie Clifford, is legally null and void. The suit alleges that since Mr. Trump himself never signed the agreement, Daniels should be free to discuss her, quote, intimate relationship with Mr. Trump back in 2006, and it lasted until 2007. We reached out to the White House, the Trump Organization, and Mr. Trump's lawyer, that's Michael Cohen, for comment on this suit, but have not yet received a response. Stormy Daniels has a new attorney. His name is Michael Avenatti, and he joins us at the table. Michael, thank you for joining us this morning.
Good morning.
First, before we talk about the lawsuit, why does someone who had a consensual relationship, allegedly, with Donald Trump back in the day, want to discuss it? Most people who engage in an extramarital affair aren't out there saying, I want to tell you what happened. Why does she want to tell this story?
Well, I think at this point she wants to tell her story because there's so much misinformation out there and so much misinformation that's been spread by Mr. Cohen and others, quite honestly, over the last 6 weeks relating to what happened, the circumstances of the agreement, the circumstances of the payment, and she wants to set the record straight. She wants to be heard, and she wants to tell the public the true facts of what happened here.
Does she want to profit from selling her story?
Absolutely not.
She'll not be seeking any money for her story in any way?
I don't know whether she's going to ultimately seek payment or not. What I do know is she wants the public to know the truth, and she wants to be free of these agreements.
The name listed on the NDA or non-disclosure agreement is David Dennison. Is that an alias for President Donald Trump?
Yes.
How do we know that?
Well, I know it, and I'm making that assertion, and if I'm false, let Mr. Cohen or Mr. Trump come forward immediately and claim that, in fact, it's not an alias for Donald Trump. It most certainly is an alias for Donald Trump, and to conclude otherwise, you would have to conclude that Mr. Cohen, who represented Mr. Trump at the time, who's admitted to the $130,000 payment, made the payment on behalf of some other party, some other individual that went by that alias.
Well, he says that this was a danger to the president. Then candidate Trump. He took care of it with his own money, and that Mr. Trump knew nothing about it.
I think it is completely uncredible to assert that, in fact, that happened. You would have to conclude that Mr. Cohen was operating on his own, Mr. Trump knew nothing about it, and, in fact, the drafted agreement had a place for Mr. Trump to sign, multiple places. The idea that somehow Mr. Trump never knew anything about it, I just think strains credibility.
Okay, help me understand. Is this a publicity stunt, or do you really think that you can get this NDA thrown out, and why?
No, this isn't a publicity stunt. I wouldn't be wasting my time or staking my reputation on it if it was a publicity stunt. We believe the NDA will be tossed out. We believe that it will show that Mr. Trump never signed either document, and therefore she's free to tell her story.
But doesn't the NDA say this, Michael, that either David Dennison, which you say is Donald Trump, or his attorney has to sign it, and the attorney did sign it, so that makes the NDA valid?
No, in fact, first of all, his attorney did not sign on his behalf. His attorney signed on behalf of the entity that was created in order to funnel the payment to Ms. Daniels. First of all, and second of all, Mr. Trump was obligated to sign the agreements in order for them to be legally binding.
This is no longer Mr. Trump. This is now President Trump. When a judge looks at this, they're going to weigh the damage done to your client versus the damage that could be done to a president, interrupting a president's time, also damaging the office. So a judge says to you, why is your client's desire to profit from her story more important than the country's business?
Well, first of all, my client doesn't have a desire to profit from her story. You asked me about that earlier, and I answered those questions. That's number one. Number two, I don't think we're talking about interrupting the presidency of the United States at all. These are very simple questions. Did he sign the agreement? Did he know about the agreement, the payment, etc.? It doesn't take long to answer those questions, and in fact, you can certainly answer them in less than 140 characters.
Why was she paid $130,000? Why did she tell you she was paid $130,000?
Well, I'm not going to get into the details about communications that I've had with my client because that's privileged, of course. But what I will tell you is that there was obviously a reason for the payment of $130,000, and we assert it was in an effort to silence her.
Well, the NDA says that prior to signing the agreement, that Daniels came into confidential information, including but not limited to still images and/or text messages authored by or relating to DD, who you say is Donald Trump. Does she have photos or text messages that prove the affair?
We're not going to answer that question as of this morning.
But there is additional information that exists out there.
There is certainly additional information relating to this NDA, the circumstances, and their relationship that I'm confident will be forthcoming.
And also, Michael Cohen says he paid that, that's Mr. Trump's attorney, says he paid that $130,000 out of his own pocket. Do you have information to suggest that that payment came from somewhere else?
We do, but we're not in a position to disclose it quite yet.
Meaning that that money was not from Michael Cohen, the attorney's own sort of source of funds, that it was from someone else?
I think I've commented enough on that as of this morning.
Have you heard from the White House or Michael Cohen himself?
We have not heard yet, but again, this can be clarified pretty easily. Did Mr. Trump, now President Trump, sign these documents? Did he know about the negotiation and the payment? It's very, very simple.
Was it a consensual relationship? Can you say that?
Absolutely.
All right.
All right. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.